get. Opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farrow.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good evening, it's 11 o'clock. I'm Tatiana Sanchez in the GB newsroom. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has vowed to bolster Britain's defences if she becomes Prime Minister, including by pushing ahead with renewing Trident. Truss warns the era of complacency is over. She's now set out her plan to protect the UK, including a full renewal of the nuclear deterrent, as well as an update to the government's integrated review and strengthened support for intelligence services. Well, at the penultimate Tory leadership hustings, Truss already pledged to boost defence spending to 3% of GDP by 2030. Two men who were arrested on suspicion of murdering Olivia Pratt-Corbell in Liverpool have been released on bail. The 9-year-old was killed by a gunman in her home on Monday. One of the men who was questioned has been recalled to prison after breaching the terms of his licence. Police have also renewed their appeal for more information, urging the public to come forward so they can bring those responsible to justice. The Chancellor has acknowledged middle-income earners and the most vulnerable face hardship over the coming months. Nadeem Zahawi says he's concerned about people who aren't on benefits, telling the Daily Telegraph those earning around £45,000 a year may also need government support. It's after Ofgem announced an 80% hike in the energy price cap. The Met Police will be investigated following the death of a man in Kingston in southwest London. Officers were in the process of making an arrest following an allegation of theft when he entered the River Thames last night. His body was recovered 2 hours later. Police say he wasn't in handcuffs. The incident has been referred to the Independent Office for Police Conduct. 3 years after he was killed in a crash, the family of Harry Dunn say they miss him terribly. A memorial ride has been staged at the US Embassy in London to mark the anniversary of his death. The 19-year-old was killed when his motorbike collided with a car which was allegedly being driven on the wrong side of the road. American Anne Sakoulis was charged with causing death by dangerous driving, but was allowed to leave the country because she had diplomatic immunity. A car once owned by Princess Diana has sold at auction for £650,000. The black Ford Escort RS Turbo, which was driven by the royal between 1985 and 1988, was initially expected to fetch around £100,000. Silverstone Auctions says the RS Turbo Series 1 was usually made in white, but the royal family police guard asked for Diana's to be painted black for reasons of discretion. NASA is launching a new mission to put humans back on the moon. The first test flight of Artemis program on Monday will be uncrewed, but astronauts are scheduled to be on board in 2024. The eventual aim is to build a base camp on the moon where people can live and work. TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now it's over to headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle, and joining me tonight I've got two top comedians. We've got the Headliners veteran Leo Kearse and a Headliners newcomer, Quincy. Thanks both for joining me. Let's go straight into tomorrow's front pages first. We're going to start with the Sunday Telegraph, and they run with Truss Mull's nuclear option of 5% VAT cut. Doubtless we're going to get onto that. Front page of The Observer has union to join forces for waves of strikes over cost of living. That's Unison and Unite are going to be urging coordinated action there. Front cover of the Mirror now, and this is a TV Scandal exclusive, new £1 million X Factor bullying campaign. So Simon Cowell's company is facing legal cases as 6 contestants claim that they were bullied on the show. We're going to be covering that in just a moment. Front page of the Times now. They have a majority now expect delays in NHS treatment. So apparently, almost half of us think the service is getting worse, and 6 in 10 think the appointment waits are unreasonable. So not good news for the NHS there. Sunday Express runs with Boris, golden future ahead. The Prime Minister insists Britain will not buckle under the energy crisis. Very easy for him to be optimistic. Now he's on his way out. And then front cover of The Sun on Sunday, they have the exclusive royal shock, B plea. Give Dad a job, Charles. So this is the Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie asking Prince Charles directly to hand Prince Andrew back his return to royal duties. So we'll see where that leads. The Daily Star has exclusive Lags watch as Lilia suspect maimed. Child killing accused stabbed in cells. And those are your front covers. And kicking us off is the Sunday Mirror. This is a story about a scandal in X Factor. Well, it makes a change from the cost of living.
That's right, although we're going to get onto that later. So Simon Cowell's company, Psycho, he's called it that.
Is it Psycho or Sicko?
Well, I call it Psycho.
Oh, yeah.
I think he named it after himself. But he's facing legal action after 6acts made allegations against the X Factor. So they were saying they're bullied and traumatised on the show.
Right.
Many contestants were sleep-deprived, in tears and suffering trauma. I mean, this really puts Ukraine into perspective. You know, I mean, this is just what it's like in entertainment. You know what I mean?
OK, but
I'm not going to sue, like, a comedy promoter for making me get up and do a kids' show. You know what I mean?
What do you think, Quincy? Because, you know, from what I can see, most of the bullying went on camera. I mean, we saw a lot of it.
Yeah, and some of the contestants of the first 2 rounds needed some bullying, because that's the reason why I used to watch it in the first place. You know,
some of them are delusional. You know, they come on and they absolutely can't sing.
And it really makes you think: have you really got friends? Like, who told you you could sing? You know what I mean? So this isn't the first time this is actually happened, because it's happened in another one of Simon Cowell's shows, America's Got Talent.
Yes.
With Gabrielle Union. I mean, she called it out.
Yeah.
I mean, she was bullied, but she was taken off.
Is that just part of the culture of these sorts of shows, though? You go on there to be mocked a bit and knocked around a bit.
I feel that there's a lot younger generation now who are going on those programmes, and they don't know what it's like to experience criticism.
Yeah.
Because they can edit it out on Instagram or wherever. So when you come up against someone like Simon... Yeah, and I'm picking my words very carefully, because he gave my mate a golden buzzer, so I can't really...
Yeah, be careful.
I can't knock him.
That's a really interesting point, though. I mean, because, you know, often the younger generation aren't criticised very often. I mean, I used to be a school teacher, and we were told, just praise them all the time, even if they do something wrong. You know, even if they rip off their essays from the internet, I was meant to praise them, you know. But is that the case? They're interpreting what is just criticism as bullying.
Yeah, and also we've seen the sort of elimination of bullying in schools over the last, like, 20, 30 years, and bullying provides, you know, a valuable social service. It's, it hones someone. It's almost like vaccinates them against criticism, so you can deal with life better.
You're defending the bullies. It's absolutely
Also, how would you know if Simon Cowell's bullying you? His face doesn't ever move.
Yeah, and his waistline is like up in his neck. You know what I mean? That's the prime subject to be bullied.
He's bullying his own genitals with his trousers pulled up that high.
Fair enough. We're going to move on now to tomorrow's Daily Mail and the thing that's not leaving the headlines anytime soon. So this is Quincy. Obviously, this is the energy crisis.
Yeah, so energy bosses plan to save us £1,000 on our bills. Multi-millionaire tycoon says that the government can slash gas and electricity prices in a moment if they target the producers of record profits.
Is that feasible? Is this because £1,000 would be a significant dent in it. We're seeing these prices are going up.
But this is
the thing.
This is the thing for me. It's like, they can save us £1,000 and give it to us, but we're going to give it back to the same people, right? Which don't make no sense, right? And I'm not taking no advice from none of these people. The people I'm going to be looking at advice for are squatters and the homeless, because I want to know how they're going to keep warm and how they're doing it for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
That's who I'm getting my advice from.
And it must be possible, because, before we had, gas central heating, we did have people. So,
right.
we were living in, turf huts and stuff, and we didn't die. We might need to, go back to wearing bear skins, but...
It's funny that there's an article every few days about someone's got a bright new idea about how to handle this, and you had Gordon Brown sort of saying, well, we'll nationalise the energy companies, that's going to work. But ultimately, no one seems to know what we're going to do, and the figures keep going up. I think the last one was, it's going to go up to £6,000?
Yeah, £6,500 was the last one I saw.
But that's most people that's going to plunge people into poverty. Yeah. Something's got to be done. But look, I know what your solution is, Leo. Because
yes,
why don't you tell us?
Oh yeah, I was waiting for you to come to me. And for me, it goes back to the Great Reset of back in the day when you had families. We're from a generation. I can't speak for yourself, but we're from a generation where you had 5 or 6 brothers in the same bed to each other. That's how you kept warm.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going back to the old days.
Yeah.
We're going back to the old days.
Really? Everything like rickets and all the rest of it and, lack of hygiene?
Not in my manner,
Well, ironically, this guy, Dale Vince, so he's the founder. The guy who says, if we tax the North Sea oil companies, we can get, all this, billions of pounds to give everybody £1,000 off their bills that, like you say, they're then going to give back to the people. It's just, this circular robbing Peter to pay Paul thing. But he founded a green energy company, and it's green energy that's the root cause of all this. It's the push for net zero. So, for some reason, the government listened to these people, and we stopped developing, we banned fracking, we stopped developing in the North Sea, and as a result, we don't have enough. And this is going on all across the Western world, and we're like, we'll just rely on Russian gas and oil until we've got enough windmills.
What happened to the windfall tax idea, and what happened, ultimately people are annoyed that these billionaire CEOs are raking in all this money.
You can tax all you like. There isn't enough energy there because we're not making it. We've stopped all investment in drilling in the North Sea.
And to top it off, we're missing keywords like empathy and just like the good old words of sharing.
Yeah.
I would hate to be at the dinner of any of these energy bosses where you've got to share around a piece of chicken. You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. Or you snooze, you lose, you lost your leg.
I reckon they got a chicken each. Probably a swan each.
They probably have. They probably do that, don't they? Anyway, we're going to move on now to the next article. This is the Sunday Mirror next. And speaking of energy and difficult times ahead, people are expecting some form of help, Leo, aren't they?
Yeah, so everybody's, coming out and saying, this is who we can tax to, give people more money, or this is, where we can make tax cuts. This is a Tory MP who's come out and just told the blunt truth. He's told voters the government paying their gas bills is an illusion that isn't going to happen, and people will have to live with soaring prices.
So who is this?
Sir Desmond Swain, and he also said the COVID furlough scheme was disastrous. So this is a guy I trust on economics, because he's right on both of these things. Finally, someone with common sense. Like I said, there's not enough gas. It's like if you got 5 Mars bars and you've got 10 people who want a Mars bar, the price is going to go up for the Mars bars because everybody's bidding for the Mars bars. If the government comes in and reduces the price of the Mars bars, you've still only got 5 Mars bars. You still don't have enough for 10 people.
Are you referring to deep fried?
He goes straight for that analogy, doesn't he?
Can't afford the oil in this economic climate.
I just... The reality check has kicked in for a lot of people in this country, middle England. It's like, why would you think that a government who has consistently lied to you is going to give you free money and not ask for it back in different ways? So what this Tory... And I don't agree with anything what a Tory MP says, but at this time, He's got me.
He's luring you over to the Tory side.
It's the classic old, like, who told you that I'm going to pay for it? That's like the classic parent. You're 28 years old, you're living in my house, you've got to go.
Yeah.
What did you make of furlough? Do you think that was the right way to do?
No.
No?
No.
Handing out money to get us through it?
No, he handed that free money to me, and I looked at it as like, do you know what? That's money I could put to savings, which is now I'm spending again. So for me, it's like nothing free in this world.
Yeah.
So you're giving away free money to top up your business, where practically we all knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And they just said, just put a lid on it.
And you know what? We're reaping it now because a lot of people got so accustomed to not working. They really liked it.
Yeah.
And now they don't want to go back to work. And we're having all these people in their 50s taking early retirement.
And the people who were getting the furlough money were Amazon and Go Eat and all that, because that's where the money was going.
Yeah, big companies. And also people were working out how to get the business loans and stuff, getting 50 grand at a time and just disappearing. And, anytime there's a system where the government's dishing out money, people work out how to get the money when they don't really deserve it. And then that's all money that's got to be paid back. That money, it comes out of our taxes, it comes out of borrowing, which is future taxes.
Yeah, but you can understand why people are absolutely terrified at these bills. They want to hear something. They want to hear some reassurance.
Next time, when I say we shouldn't have these ridiculous net zero plans, maybe listen to people who say we shouldn't have...
Maybe listen to Leo Kearse.
Listen to Leo Kearse.
There's only a section of society who's scared... scared about these bills, because poor people and people from communities where we grew up have been saying this for the longest while that we were on a wage. So it's only when it's hit a certain section of society, now they're complaining when they're saying, I can only go on 2 holidays a month.
Yeah, so
those ones who are now complaining.
And maybe they'll listen to those people.
Right. Now you need to listen to the servants who are serving you the food and giving you the stuff. So
because if you grew up poor, I mean, we had ice on the inside of our windows in Scotland. So we'll just rug up, put a jacket on,
put a
no
jumper
problem.
On. Yeah, exactly. Simple, problem solved. Yeah. Anyway, the Sunday Times next. Sadiq Khan is under fire. Quincy, what's this about?
Yeah, so Sadiq Khan has come under fire for ousting Carissa Dick.
Yeah.
And he is furious that he believes that the report has been biased and factually flawed. I like how they've worded that it's been biased. Basically saying someone stitched me up. Yeah.
I see. But she was so unpopular towards the end, and she was blamed for this culture, this misogynistic culture within the police force. And she had to go, didn't she?
Well, I mean, people have short memories, because she was the lady who was behind the Mendes in Stockport, and people forget that.
Yeah.
And she defended a lot of what the police were doing when they were the stop and searches and with the 2 ladies being photographed and all the WhatsApp. You are top boss, and I think that if what Sadiq Khan done, was the right thing to do. And personally, I don't think he's responsible, because she actually left her job after a good friend of mine, Mr. Eddie Nestor, interviewed her. She came down that lift. I don't know what he said to her in that BBC London interview, but basically she left the job after she spoke to him.
Yeah.
But Sadiq Khan is a great example of, if you are not doing what you are employed for, jog on.
Yeah.
And all police officers, if they knew that there was basically reactions to their actions.
Yes.
And they knew that if you do a silly stop and search, you arrest someone for that and you could lose your job, the police force would be a better place.
So do we need higher standards in the police force, Leo, then?
Higher standards in the police force would be nice, but I think the police is a much better service than it was, 20, 30 years ago. And I think, they get criticised for misogyny.
Quincy's unsure about that.
Says the white man.
I used to work. I was a criminal intelligence analyst. And,
was you?
Since I left, it's improved immeasurably.
Well, exactly. Getting rid of you was the best thing they ever did.
I saw the sort of real structural changes and the push for improvements. After Stephen Lawrence and the McPherson report and everything. So they really did try. But I mean, the stuff of misogyny when they're going into WhatsApp groups, man, everybody's a misogynist in a WhatsApp group. Even women are misogynists in WhatsApp groups. It's not fair to judge people in what they say in WhatsApp groups. So you're questioning
this idea that there was a culture of misogyny within the police, that it was just people joking?
I think people joke around. It's like gallows humour. I think if you're doing a job like that, doctors and nurses are the same.
Quincy, what do you think about that? You seem a bit sceptical.
Yeah, I am very sceptical. There's banter and there's straight out racism and ignorance, and what was coming out in those WhatsApp groups Listen, like, if I want an officer to help me, I don't want, that's where their heart is or where their mind is.
Well, also, I don't understand why they don't assume that WhatsApp groups are going to be leaked, because they always are.
That's right.
Like, so everything you say in a WhatsApp group, just assume it's out there.
That's right. Do you know how many WhatsApp groups I came out?
Yeah.
After that revelation, I was like, no, delete.
It's particularly with politicians. Why do they have all these WhatsApp groups?
Yeah.
Of course it's going to get leaked.
I've noticed there's some of the ones I'm in, they've turned on disappearing messages.
Yeah.
Because I've gone back to get a phone number or whatever, and it's disappeared.
Delete.
OK, so on to the Daily Mail now. First it was energy, and now it's water. Another increase in bills on the horizon, Leo.
Yeah, so after a few weeks ago, we had the floods, where this mass rainfall, and then sewage, because our sewage system can't deal with all the water, so there was overflow, and all this sewage was released into rivers and the sea, and even France was saying they should sue the UK, for the the British turds floating towards them in the English Channel. There's going to be new targets to stop sewage being dumped into rivers and the sea, and it's going to see people's water bills rise. And bear in mind, we're already seeing, gas and electricity bills going up by £6,500. This is £12 per year. I mean, this is really going to hit us after that £6,500
Well, exactly.
rise.
But also, doesn't it need to be done? I mean, a lot of these sewage systems, a lot of these pipes are from the Victorian era.
Yeah.
They leak out so much. I mean, there are just trillions of tons of litres of water.
Although Victorian engineering was really good, and they built it for like 4 times the capacity that they actually needed at the time. So
Yeah, but it was
they were
ages
thinking-
ago.
It was in the Victorian
and
time.
now they're leaking, and we do
Yeah.
actually need to fix it. I mean, we're talking about water shortages,
Yeah.
and yet they're leaking so much of their water.
And the people I really feel sorry for are just the families who says, right, this time we're going to stay in the UK, we're going to holiday in the UK,
Yes.
we're going to chill out in the beach, and then go into the sea, and the condom goes past their face.
I mean, that wasn't nice, was it? But that was because of the rainfall, wasn't it? They had to let the sewage out there because otherwise it would have backed up into people's houses, and it would have been probably potentially even worse. But yeah, if you're going swimming on the British seaside, you know what you're going to get.
Yeah, and I don't think our water companies are particularly well run, and they do make profits off us. We pay quite a lot of money, and I'm a capitalist, but I don't understand why we don't nationalise water, because it's not a free market. If you want to change your water provider, you've got to move house.
So you're calling for nationalisation?
I know a couple of places they could have redirected that water, you know what I mean?
To your enemies' houses.
Yeah.
OK, well, let's move on now to the Sunday Times. This has a story to end this section on a lighter note, thanks to beavers saving our waterways. Quincy.
Yeah, so story says beavers will be given legal protection in England from October. It will be illegal to harm or kill them.
Isn't it already? I didn't know it was legal to go around kicking beavers.
Who's the beaver killer? You know what I mean? I just want to know. This story just really made me laugh, because it's natural. Beavers help the environment.
Yeah.
For someone who goes around killing beavers.
Well, is it farmers or something? I mean, are they damaging crops or something? I'm just guessing here.
Yeah, well,
I guess if they dam a
I know
river.
the next time I get pulled by police, I'm going to have a beaver mask. So
So you can't touch the beavers now?
Yeah, no.
You're upset about that, Leo?
No, we'll find ways around it. But, but yeah, they dam rivers, and that's actually really good, because it means the water doesn't just flow through and take all its sediment, and it creates marshland. But then I guess some farmers are like, well, I liked having a field there rather than this marsh.
That's who you should have got to help the water crisis.
Yeah, the beavers.
The beavers,
Yeah.
see?
The beavers could have solved everything. Anyway,
Use
that's
your
it
knowledge.
now for part 1. Coming up after the break, why electric cars could affect our savings, the trains of the future coming to our tracks, and the UK's ticking time bomb that we can't escape. See you in 2 minutes.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness, man.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle, joined tonight by comedians Leo Kearse and Quincy. And we're going to be running through the papers. We're going to kick off this section with the Sunday Telegraph. And if you think Britain has problems now, it looks like greater problems are on the horizon. Leo.
So basically, Britain faces a population time bomb. Populations are dropping because people aren't having enough kids. So we need about 2.1 kids per woman to maintain a stable population. And the fertility rate now is 1.6 children per woman. And just a decade ago, it was up at 1.94. So this is a bit of a problem. And I love it. The Telegraph says after centuries of population growth, falling birth rate risks a shortage of taxpayers. As if that's the most important thing. Oh, nobody's going to be here to pay tax.
They see them as babies, as potential taxpayers. That's the way they see it.
Feed them for a bit and they start paying tax.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see what people are not having the children.
Yes.
Basically, because, I mean, it's like within in the city areas, there are people need fathers. You know what I mean? So there are people clearly having children out there, just not fathering them.
So what is it? Is it that people are not having children because they're worried about money, because they're concerned about that kind of thing? Or is it, because I've often found poorer communities do have lots of children. That doesn't seem to,
You get sort of stuck in a trap. This is what I found. Like, rich people can afford to have kids, and like poor people, if you're on, benefits or whatever, you can afford to have kids because, the state's going to provide anyway. If you're in the middle and you're working, like both people in the couple are working, like neither can afford to take time off to have a kid.
Yeah.
And so you've got to, work to get your career to a certain point to have a kid, and by that time you're 40 and you can't have a kid anymore.
Most poor people have children to keep warm.
Yeah, exactly.
Use them as loft insulation.
Use a baby as a draft excluder. You can do that, can't you? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's weird because this has been going on apparently across Europe.
Yeah.
There's falling birth rates, and there's a real worry that there won't be taxpayers.
The solution touted by the World Economic Forum and other globalists is to bring in like loads and loads of immigrants from the Middle East and North Africa, Syria, places like that. But I think immigration from culturally sort of integratable places is great, but from other places it's not always so good. You get problems with terrorism,
immigration is important for the NHS. Without immigration, where the hell would we be?
Yeah. But then there's also the issue that immigration, the more people that would, like 1.2 million visas issued last year, so it's an all-time high, and all those people need somewhere to live. It's not like they're bringing a semi-detached house with them across the channel, so they need somewhere to live. So then the house prices shoot up, and then the people in the UK can't afford to have kids because they've got to pay more for the rent.
Yeah, but this will be the only solution, surely. We need more people.
Yeah, this is why they send the Jamaicans and the Africans back, because obviously we are breeding the children. So you know what I mean. So and it's for me, it's a classic case. This might look conspiracy theory. Well, you mentioned Europe are not producing enough children, but that's not happening in Central America and Africa because they are producing children.
Right.
And it seems very weird that those same people from those demographics are not being allowed into parts of Europe.
Interesting.
So, open the doors, Mr. Patel, and let us do our job. And I mean,
Okay,
nice possible taste.
What's interesting is some countries, like so China and India, you know, as they've progressed to become middle-class countries, the birth rate drops there as well. So they're facing the same population.
But, I mean, China had years of just a one-child policy.
Single-child policy, but that was never in India. And in India, you know, for decades, economists and futurologists and people were saying, oh, we're going to have like too many people on the planet. And now they're saying, we're not going to have enough people. But I don't think it's going to be that much of a problem. We're going to have automation, which is going to decouple, you know, economic growth from the number of people. We've already seen economic growth decouple from resource consumption. Also, you know, they're saying we'll have less tax. We'll need less tax because there'll be fewer people.
Well, also the robots are going to take over, let's be honest. OK, we're going to move over to the Sunday Telegraph now. The greener cars of the future might see our pockets worse off. Quincy, what's going on here?
Yeah, so electric cars will be more expensive to run than petrol. Cost of travelling long distances will be much higher and under the new price cap. So I'm from that generation. I remember the programme Tomorrow's World when Claire was tatted about and everybody was laughing. But this is another thing as well. I don't know if anybody's experienced when you've had the electric key inside your house and you're watching a programme and cooking the food and it's pitch black all of a sudden. That's the last thing you want.
And the petrol station shuts. You can't get it topped
when
up.
you're in the middle of nowhere and you're cruising with your missus and all of a sudden you get stuck in the woods and there's massive beavers about.
The beavers. I mean, this is it. But why
You're not even allowed to harm them.
You can't harm them, you can't pay for fuel.
So but why is it so expensive? Why is this so much more expensive than petrol?
Because a lot of electricity is generated from fossil fuels, which have spiked up hugely, and also a lot of green energy was subsidised. So there are huge subsidies put on energy bills to pay for windmills and all the rest of it, which aren't at the moment they're just not efficient enough, and also we can't store that power. So electricity is going to shoot up, and petrol prices have been coming down. So gas has been going up, but oil has been coming down a bit. So petrol prices have fallen down to about
£1.77. Woo!
Well, this is not good news for the environmentalists, then, is it? This
Man, everything should be bad news for environmentalists. They are scum of the earth.
Leo, don't hold back. Don't hold back. Anyway, the Mail on Sunday now. The age-old excuse of the train is late due to leaves on the line could be a thing of the past.
Yeah, so Network Rail, which maintains the nation's railway tracks and signalling, is to test laser trains which zap leaves from the line for the first time this autumn. So they've got lasers attached to the bottom of the trains which vaporise the oily film created by a build-up of leaves repeatedly compressed by carriages.
So is this true that leaves actually can stop the train from running? I thought it was just a myth, an excuse.
Yeah, it's this sort of film that get compressed and built up and then the trains can't break and it's safe. But I'm just amazed. Is there anything lasers can't do? They can whiten teeth. They can stop.
They can cure blindness.
Cure blindness. They can both stop hair growing and they can stimulate its growth, which is just. I mean,
they just do everything.
That's magic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean,
well, I mean, this is good news, isn't it, Quincy?
I'm old-fashioned. I think that should be us fellow humans should be doing those kind of jobs.
Clearing the leaves up.
That is a classic case if you commit a crime and rehabilitation. You know what I mean?
This feels like a community service thing, right?
That's what I was looking for. Community service. Yeah,
it feels like that.
And there'd be a lot of people for community service with afros after that. If they pick up the wrong leaf.
Absolutely. OK, let's move on now to another story. This is The Observer and the whole Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal finally coming to an end. This has been rumbling on for 6 years, Quincy.
Yeah, so dramatic moves. Mark Zuckerberg desperate to avoid being questioned over the cover-up, says an Observer journalist who exposed the scandal. So, yeah, a few years ago. I'm got a love-hate relationship with Facebook, and I think that they have been responsible for a lot of things. That's why, if you've got, there's a classic saying that if you've got nothing to hide and he's avoiding it, and if you're paying out straight away, that means that you've got something to hide and you don't want to expose stuff. But I mean, I'm still upset with Facebook that they're still flagging up some of my pages for playing music for 4 years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? Me and Facebook are not
Well,
on
they
best terms.
they do interfere in things. But didn't we have Mark Zuckerberg recently this week just admitting
He was on Joe Rogan.
He was on Joe Rogan,
Yeah.
and he made this a concession that during the Hunter Biden laptop scandal, they did make sure that that story wasn't shared as much. I mean, he just openly said it.
Yeah.
So it's not the case. I mean, he was always prided himself saying, "Look, Facebook, it's a platform.
Yeah.
We don't curate material for people. We just put it out there, and that alleviates him of any responsibility."
Yeah,
but apparently not.
They're not, and also, I mean, so the Cambridge Analytica scandal was Facebook data being used to boost Trump's campaign.
Right.
But the thing he was talking about in Joe Rogan, that was him basically colluding with the FBI to suppress stories that would have damaged the Democrats' campaign.
Yeah, I'm
which
really
is
surprised he admitted that.
Yeah, very dangerous. And considering he's paid $5 billion, and that's on top of a previous $5 billion to the authorities in the United States, just to avoid being questioned. And to avoid that question in case he reveals something damaging. And then he goes on Joe Rogan and reveals something as damaging as that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's ridiculous that, just this week, Joe Biden's been calling the Republicans fascists, but fascism is, that sort of collusion between an autocratic government and business.
Right, yeah.
And that seems to be what's happened with the Hunter Biden story getting quashed by Facebook.
Yeah. OK, well, we're going to stick with The Observer now. This is Julian Assange continuing to fight his extradition case. This is a fascinating story, Leo.
Yeah, so Julian Assange is being held in Belmarsh at the moment. He's been indicted on 17 espionage charges in the United States after... he says he faces persecution for his political opinions. It was a bit more than that. He released millions and millions of files from Chelsea Manning. He faces a maximum sentence of 175 years in prison, although he'd be out in 140 with good behaviour.
Quincy, what do you make of this?
There's Benjamin Button, that's about half those years. but
do you think that he should have been extradited? Do you think this was the right decision?
I think it's the right decision not to let him get extradited, because if he does go over there, the US it's already biased towards him anyway, and they're out there to literally just lock him up.
Well, they've been openly biased about this.
Yeah. So he should stay where he is.
I mean, this is the thing, Leo.
But he is in prison right now, so it's just a different prison.
I don't know the difference between that prison and...
But Leo... I mean, Leo, don't you think, though, that there are some implications here for freedom of the press? Because it wasn't the case that he was leaking information that had been passed to him. Yeah. So that's the equivalent of a journalist publishing information that has been leaked to them. And surely we shouldn't be in the situation where journalists face prison.
Well, yeah, but number one, he's not a journalist. Number two, he didn't release the information in a particularly safe or redacted way. So he put, field operatives, he put people, exposed identities, and put people at risk.
There's no evidence that anyone was harmed, though, as a result of that exposure.
Yeah, we don't know that, but I mean, that would really be secret. So we don't know, because they're not going to be like, oh yeah, James Bond was poisoned.
But Quincy, isn't there an issue here, though, with freedom of the press,
Yeah, there's freedom of the press, but I mean, the Chelsea Manning coming with the stories it brings back how America's just embarrassed of what they've been doing for God knows how long.
Yeah.
And this is why they want to quieten him and shut him up. So for me, is that he's in Belmarsh, he's doing his time, leave him where he is. And this is where our UK government needs to step up and say, look, he's serving time.
Because your fear that he won't get a fair trial out there?
He won't get a fair trial there.
No. OK, very interesting. OK, we're going to move on now. Coming up after the break, why the English town that is now the front line of the culture wars, the billionaire that has closed an entire road for his garden upgrade, and the patriotic driveway. If you want to know what that's about, come back in 2 minutes.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm still Andrew Doyle, he's still Leo Kirst, and he's still Quincy. And we're going to be going through some more stories. Let's kick off now with the Sunday Mail. And with all the news of the Tavistock clinic closing in the UK, it looks like the same thing might be starting to happen across the pond. Quincy, what's this about?
Yeah, and like I said, I've got this story. I've been on TV 2 minutes and I might get cancelled already. But anyway.
You are thrown in the deep end with this story. Join the club, Quincy.
Give the brother the trans story. But anyway, so a detransitioner has told that he was brainwashed after having gender reassignment surgery after believing himself to be a woman trapped in the wrong body, right? So first of all, the person's name is Shapeshifter.
Shapeshifter, but I think that's a fake name.
I know, yeah, but I just wanted to say it. It is a fake name. But yeah, he has discovered after a little while that he made a massive, that's the right word, made a massive mistake. And what he's realised that he's become a woman and now Gaia is...
Well, he's saying he's a gay man who was feminine and he was put under pressure.
But no one is being attracted to him.
Yeah,
right.
I like that. That was the bit that really swung it for him. Like, transitioned to being a woman, got the vagina plasty.
The neo-vagina. Yeah.
Neo-vagina.
Leo,
and then, like, said nobody wanted to...
No one wants him. That's the realisation.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? You realise, you know what, I'm not attractive.
So there's a really interesting thing about this, isn't there? Because we're going to see more and more of these detransition cases. There's a man called Richie Herron who's suing the NHS because, as a younger person, he was convinced he was suffering from gender dysphoria, and he just had that affirmed by specialists, and he ended up having his genitals removed. And what he realises now is there should have been more therapy, more discussion, because what he was really struggling with was being gay. And that was really what this was about. And, you know, this is life-altering surgery.
Oh, yeah, I mean, this surgery like this should... I mean, I understand that, you know, some people will need it to sort of, you know, fully cope with their gender dysphoria and they're born in the wrong body and all the rest of it, but it's surely got to be a last resort after a lot of stuff. And I think we're seeing with Tavistock and Boston Children's Hospital in the States, they're funneling young people through, like, alarmingly quickly. And I think
there are young teenage girls getting mastectomies, double mastectomies.
And,
you know, this is...
And for me, it's like these young people cannot vote.
Right.
So to have their body changed and just like that.
Yeah.
For me, I don't agree with it. You know, I mean, have the conversation. I understand that people struggle with their sexuality.
Yeah.
And I get that, but that is a conversation to have with specialists, with family and friends and stuff like that. So to me, what this young man is experiencing, yeah, I can see why he's probably want to sue, but...
well, it's a horrible thing that he's been through. And, you know, I just think this is terrible because what you're describing there, Quincy, about the discussions that need to take place, that people shouldn't be rushed into these life-altering decisions. But activists are calling that process trans conversion therapy. And they're saying that this is an evil thing that you mustn't do. But
and trying to get any discussion around it banned.
Right.
That's
Trying
right.
to get any sort of therapy banned. Because they see it as steering people away from the trans therapy and away from gender transition, which is ridiculous. I mean, the whole thing is almost like, it reminds me of female genital mutilation, which is, obviously done under an ideology and a culture that sees it as correct. Because this guy, who calls himself Shapeshifter, he grew up in a Muslim country in the Balkans where being gay was frowned upon, but he believed that if he transitioned to female, he'd feel happy with himself. And that's what happens in Iran. The state, funds gender transitions for people. And we seem to be doing it in the West, just under a different ideology. We've got, this transgender ideology instead of...
so many of these young people who are going to the Tavistock, who did go to the Tavistock, are just gay. They're just gay kids who are struggling with being gay, and then and they're almost being heterosexualised by being transitioned.
And that should be open. If you're struggling with that, that's saying that you have an issue with talking to your family and talking to your friends and being open. That needs to be discussed with the people, not just them, but the people around them for acceptance.
But that's not always happening. I mean, there are even schools who are not informing parents when kids are using different pronouns, different names, and saying they want to socially transition. There are schools who have been providing breast binders to girls without informing the parents. And these things can be quite damaging, physically damaging,
And I think if history's shown us anything, it's that, kids' parents are usually the best custodians. Look out for the kids the best, rather than, some authority figure with pink hair.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, sticking with the Mail now, and the J.K. Rowling saga continues, Leo. What's this about?
Yes, so a billionaire couple have donated just over £500,000 to restore the iconic Harry Potter cloisters at Gloucester Cathedral. That's not the story. I don't know why I read that out. This is J.K. Rowling. That's right at the top, just to throw me. So J.K. Rowling was interviewed on the Graham Norton show, and she said a few months ago she was assumed to be snubbed from the Harry Potter reunion.
Yes, I remember
that. She said it was her choice. She was asked to be a part of it, and she said she didn't want to be a part of it. But I wonder if she'd have wanted to be a part of it if the stars of the film hadn't, openly
that's the trouble, is
smeared her as a transphobe.
Well, I mean, all of the stars had I don't think they went as directors but they were talking about how, trans women are women, there was a subtle kind of dig. And the thing I can't get about the J.K. Rowling situation is she's never said anything transphobic.
That's right.
She's not a hateful person. She gives so much money to charity. This is a decent person who's been monstered. People think she's evil now.
Yeah, and for me, I've got nothing but love for J.K. Rowling. She, Harry Potter, made my children so quiet watching the while I could go and do my cooking and do my thing. So, and even down to the actors who were in Harry Potter, it's like I feel that that wasn't coming from them because they are part of the machine. So they made those little subtle digs at her. So, she was probably offered, but she said, you know what?
But it is good to know that she wasn't disinvited from the reunion because of these issues. I mean, that is at least something. Because,
although she could have said it at the time when everybody was assuming that she was disinvited.
Maybe she didn't know.
Oh, right.
I think that's the point.
She knew.
I think she knew. Somebody would have told her. Somebody would have been like, oh, by the way, have you seen what they're saying about you?
But I mean, it's just so sad when you see someone who's, like you say with kids, reignited children's literature, a whole new generation was, and then a lot of those people now, you see them on TikTok, burning her books and sort of, the New York Times did a thing about why can't we imagine Harry Potter without its creator? It's this is so ungrateful.
But she still gets the money from the burnt books.
Well, she can't be cancelled. That's the great thing. And she has been online saying exactly what she thinks still. She's not going to be told what to think, and I think that's really admirable. When you're getting sent death threats and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, fantastic. Anyway, The Observer now, it turns out Durham is on the front line of the culture wars. Quincy.
Yeah, so Durham has become the focus of anger on both sides of the political spectrum. Students and academics try to explain why it's the campus of skirmish keeps spilling out in tabloids. So this story came across to me as these are young people who still are finding their way politically, and they don't know how to voice it. And it's 9 times out of 10 the young people are voicing opinions about things which they haven't lived, and they're taking it out of proportion.
Well, I mean, because I know this article talks specifically about what happened when Rod Liddle was invited to give a talk, and a lot of the students complained that it made the university unsafe, that they were harmed by his presence.
Because Rod Liddle is going to just storm off the stage and start throwing chairs around.
But there is a belief, isn't there, Quincy, among some young people that if they hear opinions they don't like, they are being physically harmed.
But this is where the bigger picture of that our young people have been conditioned for the longest while, because when you have open debate, you don't have to agree with somebody.
Yeah.
They take it as criticism.
Sure.
Someone has a different opinion. And this is why a lot of comedians are not doing universities. Chris Rock has said he don't do universities.
That's right, yeah.
Because of this same issue. And I think that isn't, again, as a parent, I tell my children, to other young people, you don't have to agree with someone, but have a debate.
Yeah, and be willing to be challenged, right?
Be willing to be challenged, but don't debate with someone to convince them you're right.
Yeah.
Sometimes the old classic saying, agree to disagree.
Yeah.
But what's happening here is I feel that young people have been conditioned for the longest while and do not know how to handle criticism.
Why is it happening so much in Durham, though, in particular? Why is Durham University... Is it because there's a lot of middle-class kids? I mean, I hate to say this, but a lot of those kids they're quite posh.
And also, they're posh, they're maybe slightly inbred, and they're a little bit thick because they didn't get into Oxbridge. So
outrageous.
They're at Durham instead. Yeah. And but I know some Durham alumni. They're not spectacular. I think this is just more proof that we need to bring back bullying. Like, if these children think that opinions make them feel unsafe, maybe if they got punched in the face more, they realise that opinion doesn't actually
I'm going to go less with your let's punch children, more with Quincy's let's encourage them to be challenged. I think that's I think I'm going to go with that there. Anyway, sticking with the Observer now. Parts of Kensington are closed because of one man's garden work.
Yes, there's a billionaire in Kensington called Richard Caring who doesn't sound like he cares that much about his neighbours. So he owns the celebrity hotspot restaurant, the Ivy. There's loads of Ivies.
There's loads now, aren't there?
And private members club, Annabelle's. And he's won permission to close a main road in South Kensington where he lives in order to have dozens of trees planted in the ground.
Wow,
that's £40 million
That's
mansion.
privilege.
And this is privilege. And this is an ambulance and bus route. So ambulances, if you're having a heart attack in South Kensington, which you probably will when your gas bill comes through the door, if you have a heart attack, the ambulance won't be able to get to you because this guy wants some trees in his garden.
Oh, it's outrageous, isn't it? I mean, surely he... I know billionaires are used to getting their own way, right? But surely he's got to think of some other people.
Yeah, well, that's like another classic case. When you have so much money, it turns you stupid because this guy, to even think that, it just fathoms me. And I've actually been into that, Ivy, and it's like people go in there not because they're hungry. And that's the funny thing about it. I've had a cup of tea in that place, and it cost me so much money. I've never sipped tea so slow in my life. I'm getting my money's worth because it's just like, he's another privileged guy, loads of money, don't know what to do with himself, and for him to even think that he needs people around him to have a word.
Yeah, but he won't have. They're all going to be just telling him he's wonderful and agreeing with everything he says.
Well, his neighbours aren't saying that. Because his neighbours are all rich people as well, because it's South Kensington.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is there any pushback here? Is anyone going to prevent this from happening?
I mean, I think it's too far gone to... It's already, past the point of, being able to, go against planning permission or anything. But, I mean, if you do move to Mayfair, you're going to be living next to some entitled...
You would have thought so.
Yeah.
OK, well, look, let's move on now to the Sunday Telegraph. And the family of actor Lawrence Fox are speaking out against cancel culture. Quincy, what's this about?
Yes, he's speaking about we're losing touch with our culture. Edward and Fredward Fox slips into the roles of sparing the father and son, both on stage and off. So, obviously, it's Freddie and Edward,
So this is an interview with Edward Fox and Freddie Fox?
Yes.
Part of the Fox acting dynasty?
Yeah.
And they're talking... And I suppose they're particularly interested because Lawrence Fox has been the subject of
That's right.
sort of online attack.
He has been very vocal in the past and he's formed his own party and stuff like that. He's experiencing what people from different backgrounds have been saying for a long while. And the cancel culture, again, is you shut down any conversation, it just breeds this kind of discontent.
I mean, do you worry about that when people are attacked quite mercilessly online if they express an opinion that isn't necessarily fashionable?
I do worry about it, but there's another part of me as well. You can only be cancelled if you're in a part of a system which you put yourself into. If you are endorsed by massive fashion labels, you are on programmes which have got a wide range. If you know yourself and you're speaking from the heart, then cancel culture shouldn't really worry you. So if he just speaks his truth, and even if you disagree with his truth, the best cancel culture is no one would turn up for your stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish that's what people left it at. If people,
That's right.
if you don't like Lawrence Fox, don't buy his books. Don't go to see him speak or anything. Instead, people cancelled him, and he was a successful actor. Really successful actor, sure. and then he was on Question Time. He expressed a perfectly reasonable opinion that a lot of people would agree with, and his whole acting career was just ripped out from underneath him overnight, and he's got kids and all the rest of it. He's got your whole life, your social life, every part of your life just turned upside down. And you can see, like with other actors, everybody's very careful to say the right thing. And I know actors who post on Facebook, "Oh, I'm voting Jeremy Corbyn," or "I'm voting Biden," and they're like, "I'm not voting Jeremy Corbyn. I'm not crazy. I've just got to do that."
But what is it about the acting industry in particular? Because you saw this with Gina Carano in America as well. Who was effectively booted off that Star Wars show because she was a Republican, really. Yeah. Let's be honest, that's what it was. So, this conformity among creatives, in comedy as well, there's a sense in which there's only a limited opinions that are acceptable.
And politics has got involved to the point because actors, comedians, we are like the last voice of the people, and we more resonate with the public than these movements, these politicians and these people behind cancel culture. So for me, it is another classic case of people sticking up for him. The more they push against him, the more support he will get. And the biggest form of cancel culture is when you have an event and no one don't turn up, or if you don't like it, switch it off.
Okay. Yeah. And we're seeing the flip side of that. When they tried to cancel Jerry Sadowitz, he's now selling out the Apollo.
He's now selling out exactly. Yeah. Right. Sunday Times now has a story, and is there any part of the world that doesn't have something of theirs in the British Museum, Leo?
I'm sure Scotland does. So artefacts collected by British explorers such as Captain James Cook, he was on there away on a Thomas Cook holiday in Chile, have lain in the vaults of the British Museum for more than 150 years, but now the indigenous people from various places, so Tierra del Fuego at the southernmost tip of the Americas, I think that's Argentina, they're coming to London to study the artefacts, including a canoe, fishing equipment, arrowheads and baskets, and they're going to take them out on the Thames and see if they can catch. Well, no, they're going to see about taking it back home with them.
Do you think, though, that this... I mean, there's been this ongoing debate about the Parthenon marbles, of course, the Elgin marbles in the British Museum.
A lot of people are very grateful to the British Museum for keeping these artefacts from all around the world safe for hundreds of years.
Should they be sent back, Quincy, to the various countries where they were plundered from?
The British Museum shouldn't even be standing, as far as I can see. They've got so much artefacts in there which they've taken and profited from.
But not the people. The people now didn't take them. It's people from a long time ago that took them.
And they bought it.
But at some point, empathy comes into it. It's like, this don't belong to us. We've got technology. Yeah.
So you'd say we need to return absolutely everything. But then around the world there are museums in all sorts of countries that have things from other countries. I mean, it would be kind of an impossible task at this point.
And also, it would make museums around the world more boring if you just went in and you just saw stuff that was from your village.
But it also, if you're going to have a British museum, have British stuff in it. Yeah. So have a memorabilia of the Craze, fish and chips, or whatever.
OK, the Sunday Express now, and this man is driving his patriotic spirit to the lament of their neighbours. Quincy, what is this?
Yeah, so homeowners caused stir online after sharing their unique Union Jack driveway, which some have said has devalued their home of up to £20,000.
So what have they done? They've just paved their driveway?
They've paved their driveway into a Union Jack.
Oh, we can see it there. And this devalues the house, does it?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I don't know. I was in Belfast recently, and there's loads of houses that look like this.
I think what it is, I don't think people got the issue with the actual painting or how they've done it. I think it's more of the case of it's not marketable in this current climate, unfortunately. It's been... if it was a Jamaican flag, then with Usain Bolt, then they would have thought, oh, it looks a bit cool. But unfortunately, the Union Jack's been hijacked by far right, and this is what it's always been associated with, unfortunately.
So does that mean, isn't that quite sad, though, the idea that if anyone flies the flag, it's now associated with the far right? And, you know...
I think it's going to come back. You know, these things go in cycles, because I know in the 90s with Cool Britannia, they had, like, Oasis and Blur, and it was all, you know, I think Liam Gallagher posed with a Union Jack. So I think it's going to come back into fashion.
Yeah. But it is true that some unpleasant people do appropriate these flags, don't they?
The only time I've seen the Union Jack appropriated incorrectly was on Jerry Halliway in Spice Girls.
Oh, yeah, Spice Girls.
That's good. Decent Union Jack days.
When it's in a mini dress form, then it's acceptable.
Is that the best of British, really? Jerry Halliwell in that awful dress. Goodness me, that's not going to make you patriotic, is it?
Yeah,
did you see Spice World? Absolutely. I mean,
is it good?
It's unwatchable.
Right.
Absolutely unwatchable. Anyway, I'm not a movie critic, so really that's not my position. Anyway, we have to wrap things up, unfortunately. Thanks for joining us, and thank you to my guests, Quincy and Leo Kearse. And join us again tomorrow for Headliners at 11 o'clock, where we'll take you through the next day's news. See you then.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you,